So these days, more and more people head back to the office, but often there's no real dress code. So now the question arises, what do you actually wear? But today, I won't be presenting this video, but our newest host, David Sperber is. Hey David.
Hi.
Nice to have you.
Good to see you.
So first of all, tell us, how did you get into classic men's?
I got into classic men's at a very young age. It started as a fascination while looking at other older men in dress clothes. But later down the line, it helped me come out of seeing that I was attracted to other men. And if I was attracted to that, I might as well apply that to myself.
That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
Now, at the Gentleman's Gazette, we also love to be diverse. And, just because you're in the classic men's style doesn't mean you have to like classic music. So what are your other interests that you have outside of clothing?
Well, it's funny you say music because I am really into metal music. And that's a funny thing, too, where there are other guys out there who also like classic menswear and are very into metal music as well.
Which is not, the classic thing that most people associate with, but I think it's cool. And then, outside of that, you told me you have, you work in the National Guard, is that right?
That is correct. I am still currently serving in the National Guard.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you got this, man.
I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
See you later.
Thank you. What happens when your office doesn't give you a dress code? Learn how to navigate this tricky situation without feeling out of place in the workforce. Consider the work you're doing. Before looking at what you want to wear, consider what your role in the company is. If you're on your feet all day or need a longer range of motion than someone who sits at a desk all day, it is okay to sacrifice form for function and comfort. If you handle IT in your company, blowing dust off your PC tower isn't a good idea in a three-piece suit. If you're constantly walking long distances, you might prefer rubber soles or the leather ones, or maybe even sneakers. Even if you're in a more typical office environment, there are other factors to consider. If you're in a more client-facing position, there will be a lot of expectations on how you look, since you'll be representing the company during meetings. Meanwhile, there are fewer expectations for those who are working behind the scenes. If you are working with people below you on the ladder, you might be expected to look like an authority figure, and thus want to appear more formal. Though a modern CEO might feel otherwise, the type of profession that you're in is also a huge factor. For example, a lawyer, doctor, or other white-collar office is going to have different expectations than a creative office. After all, you're going to be a little thrown off if your lawyer is wearing a graphic tee, or no pants and flip-flops for that matter. In short, the practical expectations for what you do will have a massive impact on what makes sense to wear. With all these expectations in mind, here's what we would recommend for a standard work environment with no dress code. Chances are it's casual or business casual. With dress codes blurring and becoming more and more relaxed, it is tricky to nail down exactly what a business professional is supposed to wear in a contemporary work environment. Normally, if business formal is expected in your office, that will be made clear up front when you take the position. But the vast majority of companies now operate in an elusive business casual dress code, which you can learn how to pin down here. Safe to say, though, that everyone's definition of business casual will differ, and what one person may wear during the weekend at a park could be a formal dress code for someone else. It's a khaki chino world after all out there. You can get a good idea of what will be expected by considering what the people interviewing you are wearing. However, interview attire is usually more formal than what someone would wear on a daily basis, even if the dress code is business casual. The next best thing is to observe the people in your office. If most people are wearing collared shirts and slacks, then that's probably what you're expected to wear. Plus, it's totally okay to ask a veteran employee in the office for some guidelines. Even if you don't get a clear answer, it is always best to overdress than underdress. And it's fine if you're dressed a little nicer than everyone else on your first day. Leading to our next point, test the waters on your first day. On your first day at the office, it wouldn't seem strange if you're dressed up more than usual. This is similar to the interview process where you're trying to set a good first impression. Consider wearing a more formal business casual ensemble, or maybe even business attire, and see how people will respond to it. If the reactions are positive or neutral, and you aren't sticking out like a sore thumb, this level of dress is likely fine, and you can continue dressing this way without causing a fuss. In the unlikely event that the reactions are negative, you can adjust accordingly, perhaps taking off a tie or a jacket to blend in better. In the modern age, exposing your dress shirt does not mean you're in your underwear anymore. If you don't want to stand out too much, dress just one formality level higher. Once you pin down what the unspoken dress code is, but you still want to dress in a classic way, try to be only one level higher on the formality scale. In other words, if everyone else is wearing a t-shirt and jeans, they're definitely going to notice that you're wearing a tuxedo. Even in the realm of business casual, there's a certain range of formality before someone might start to question your outfit. And while some jobs may give you a lot more flexibility, and ultimately won't care how you dress, others will require a certain level of uniformity. For example, if no one in your office wears a jacket, a sport coat or a blazer might raise some eyebrows. However, a sweater or a cardigan may not. Meanwhile, if everyone's wearing t-shirts and jeans, polos and chinos are not much of a leap. You can even add in some more formal accessories, if they're done tactfully with a more relaxed dress code. Classic menswear doesn't mean you have to wear a suit after all. Collar shirts, sweaters, and casual ties are your friend. This guideline, of course, doesn't apply if your office dress code is already business formal attire. You probably don't want to dress up one more level of formality and show up to the morning meeting in morning wear. You should be able to wear a knit tie without drawing too much attention to yourself, while a shiny silk one may be a different story. If you really wanted to, it might be okay to go against the grain, depending on your work environment. Just make sure your boss won't take it personally. How to dress up in the office, even when others don't. If you're a major clothes horse and work in an office environment where you won't easily get dirty, you might wonder how formally you can dress when no one else does. Or if you've been in that work environment for a long time, you might wonder how your coworkers would react to sudden changes in your style. It's possible to make those changes without standing out in a bad way, but you have to have courage. It is easier to do in a more creative environment, since self-expression is usually a higher priority. But a finance startup in Silicon Valley, for example, will usually have a lot of associations with someone in a suit, no matter what kind of suit it is. And it might be difficult to overcome those stereotypes, since you want to make sure you're never disregarded for those promotions or other career opportunities. The best way to do this is by testing the waters gradually with your formality. For example, if you usually wear a polo, start wearing a dress shirt and slacks. Then introduce a sport coat a few months later. If you gain a reputation in the office as a snazzy dresser, people will be far less likely to question why you are dressed up, since it's been made clear that it's a part of your personality. Plus, if you opt into something more fun, like a bold plaid suit, instead of a regular plain navy, it's clearly not an interview outfit to most, and people will assume it's just something you enjoy. Even taking off your jacket for most of the day, unless you're at a more formal event like a meeting, will probably make you appear more approachable. And when people ask questions and make comments about your outfits, you can even have some lighthearted responses in mind. One of Preston's favorites is, look good, feel good. You can learn more about dressing up when others don't here. Body language and confidence is everything. Ultimately, the key to pulling off your office style really comes down to being comfortable in your clothes. This will make it clearer to others that you're not showing off or trying to be superior to everyone else. People can pick up on the energy that you're giving off, which can make the difference between being snobby or fun to be around. This is very much a skill that takes practice, which is why we suggest you gradually build up your ideal wardrobe at work, since you might be still self-conscious if you aren't used to wearing more formal clothing at work, and will need to ease into it if you haven't been doing it for a long time. If you want to learn more about office etiquette or body language, check out our videos on those topics here. If you are still unsure about dressing up in the office, ask yourself these questions. Does dressing up make sense for my role? Does dressing up make sense within the office culture? Does dressing up make sense within the broader industry? As an example here, if you're working on an assembly line, do you really need to be wearing a suit? Also, is it likely that anybody would be threatened or offended if you were dressing up? And can you establish a relationship so that they don't feel this way? It can be difficult to figure out how to dress up in many modern offices, but we hope this guide can clear things up and help you stand out in the best way possible, while still being true to yourself. What are your opinions on navigating office environments with no written dress code? Let us know in the comments. Meanwhile, I'll share my outfit with you. Today I'm wearing a green V-neck sweater with a simple white collar shirt. For trousers, I'm wearing light brown chinos. For a little added formality, I added a dark brown tie. For shoes, I'm wearing a mid-brown full brogue. I'm wearing brown socks with a green clock pattern from Fort Belvedere to complement the rest of my outfit. For my fragrance today, I am wearing Derby by Roberto Ugolini.